Hello friends and my lovely viewers. Welcome back to the channel of Neon Safe. Today we are taking a look at our new Nexus Guardian. Let's get started.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. I'm tired of shit.
I genuinely thought Bloodline would release a hybrid this time, but nope. We are having another Guardian called Revenant Nexus, and her appearance and animation itself look really promising. I sincerely wish and hope that this Nexus Guardian will be useful to us in one way or another. According to our previous intel, she should be based on crowd control and supportive effects. So let us see if this aligns with her skills, starting with the active skill. Nexus will release a rolling wave of undead into the densest area of enemies. This attack deals 1100% strength-based damage to enemies along the way and inflicts fear for 1 second. The wave will also dispel most of the negative effects from allies along the way, and it restores their constitution by 600% of our Nexus's strength. To put it simply, this active skill of hers will deal AoE strength-based damage to enemies and stun them. And as for our teammates, they will have most of their negative effects nullified, and their constitution gets recovered based on how much strength our Nexus Guardian has. I feel like we may be having a great start with this Guardian, since she both deals damage and supports the allies with healing effects. She focuses on the densest area of enemies, which makes her sound more PvP based rather than PvE. And another thing worth mentioning is that our Nexus's amount of strength will matter massively on this skill's performance in battle. Her entire skill relies solely on her strength. So we may want various strength-based traits on her, such as for instance Brutal, to properly take use of her potential. Anyways, we have only covered her active skill, so let us move on to the passive next. Enemies who are inflicted by the fear effect will be targeted by a spearman. The summoning of the spearman can be triggered up to 3 times every 5 seconds. This spearman will leap to the fear-struck target and deal 750% strength-based damage to him or her. Additionally, he will also inflict a special effect called Deep Fear, which will extend the original fear duration by 2 seconds and reduce the target's strength resistance to 0 for the next 2 seconds. The Deep Fear effect cannot stack, and when a unit with the Deep Fear effect dies or if the effect ends, the accumulated fear will inflict 1 second of fear to nearby enemies. Also, 8% of our Guardian's constitution will be restored to our Guardian after this fear is spread out to nearby enemies. This skill sounds very complicated, but in reality it is very simple. As long as we have a champion, hybrid or guardian who inflicts lots of fear to the enemies, our guardian will deal damage to the fear-inflicted foe, debuff his or her strength resistance to 0, and extend the fear effect duration the enemy originally had by 2 seconds. Our guardian will additionally spread the remaining fear to other nearby enemies when the 2 seconds ends, and heal our guardian's constitution a little. For those who don't know, a fear effect immobilizes the enemy from launching any kinds of attacks for a set time. So this can be a very functional passive skill if we have the right combination of champions in our team. If we have no champions who are capable of inflicting fear to the enemy, then this passive would totally suck. But anyways, the main gain we receive from this type of skill is the delay we cause our enemies, and the 2 seconds gap where the enemy is completely vulnerable to strength-based attacks. So I see how this may work in our favor, but it will deeply depend on our team comp. At the moment, I can only think of female Wurgelak as a potentially great asset to our Nexus's team comp. But do let us know in the comments if you have any other suggestions of fear-inflicting champions who can accompany her in battle. Before we get lost in another whirlwind of thoughts, let us move on to her ultimate skill. She will target the densest area of enemies 6 times with an AoE attack that deals 160% strength-based damage. When enemies are repeatedly hit by this attack, the damage will increase by 30% and cannot exceed 100%. And every 3 hits from this skill will additionally inflict fear for 1 second. To clear up the weird wording of this skill, B refers to 81% to 100%, so the damage cannot exceed 100%. It is kinda hard to understand this part, but I tried my best and I hope it is accurate. Anyways, we are faced by a DPS-focused skill that launches AoE-based attacks. We also have a chance of receiving a damage buff once or twice if we land this attack 3 or 6 times on the same enemy. It looks alright in my opinion, and it is a great thing that 3 hits from this ultimate strike will inflict the fear effect upon the target. This part in particular will work well with her passive skill's fear effect. We can be more sure now that this Nexus Guardian may be more suitable for PvP instead of PvE. This being said, we have the special Guardian skill left, so let us move on. Her Guardian skill will summon a Bone Vortex for 3 seconds in the densest area of enemies. The Vortex deals a total of 500% strength-based damage to each enemy within the area. Next up, she will summon a Giant Staff that deals 500% strength-based damage to enemies within the area. This staff will remain on the ground for 5 seconds, and deal 300% strength-based AoE damage a total of 5 times, and increase all skill damage the enemies take by 21%. Meanwhile, all the skill damage our allies deal within this area will be increased by 21%. When an enemy is incapacitated, our Guardian will gain 140 resolve per second. If multiple enemies are incapacitated simultaneously, the collection efficiency increases by 20% for each additional champion. This Guardian skill cannot be interrupted under any circumstances, and no resolve can be gained for 10 seconds after it is cast. To break it down for us, she will deal AoE-based damage in the densest enemy area multiple times, and she debuffs the enemy by weakening them to skill damage, while buffing her allies to deal higher skill damage. An incapacitated or fear-struck enemy will give our Guardian 140 resolve per second. And if multiple enemies are affected by fear, freeze, taunt, or is incapacitated in any other way, our Guardian's resolve gain will increase by 20% for each additional champion. Nexus's Guardian skill cannot be interrupted no matter what, and the resolve cannot be recovered for 10 seconds after this skill is cast. So she mainly focuses on dealing lots of AoE damage, and she debuffs the enemy while buffing her own allies. The incapacitation of the enemies plays a role on how often she can use her Guardian skill, so we may want to consider a fear-inflicting team comp for her, since her passive skill is already based on increasing the fear effects. And once again, we may want to use her for team fight instead of boss fights. Personally, I feel like this Guardian may be the next big hype. Her skills can become extremely annoying to the opponent, especially if they keep getting fear-struck all the time. She deals a lot of damage in her skills, and she buffs the allies. I would say she may be at the very top amongst her fellow Guardians, but in her own unique control-affecting way. We have to seriously plan which champions to put in the team with her though, since we may want someone to launch more fear effects for her. That being said, based on my own thoughts and opinion, I believe she may be worth investing in. If we build her the right way with the right team comp, equipment, and level her up, she should be dope in PvP battles. I can imagine her reaching the S+ tier if built correctly, but that is only if we have the necessary resources for her. Now enough about all of this. We are yet to look at the clan traits, and we also have to discuss what to put in her remaining trait slots. The first clan trait is called Fury Flame. This trait will at level 22 permanently increase our Guardian's strength by 7.5% each time our Guardian takes damage. The effect can trigger at most once every 2 seconds, up to 5 times. This is definitely useful since Nexus is solely based on strength. But it only activates whenever she takes damage from the enemy, so I guess that is something we have to keep in mind. And it goes up to 5 times, which means we have a limit of how many strength buffs she can have. I believe we may give this clan trait a thumbs up as it still suits her pretty well. The second clan trait she has is our well-known Shura's avatar. At level 22, our Guardian's critical damage will increase by 40% for 3 seconds whenever our Guardian launches an active or ultimate attack. This effect can stack up to 2 layers. It sounds like an alright clan trait for us to have. Her massive AoE attacks will have a higher critical damage with this clan trait. Nexus has to launch her skills frequently to reach this clan trait's full potential, but I don't think this will be an issue for her. We may give a thumbs up to this clan trait of hers as well. As for the 3 remaining trait slots, we may want our usual brutal trait on her. A level 22 brutal trait increases her strength by 45%. This is a very common trait to put on our champions, hybrids, and guardians, and any DPS strength-based fighter should have it in my opinion. The next type of trait we may consider giving her is aggressive. At level 18, aggressive will increase our guardian's strength by 1.69% for each attack made. This goes up to 20%. It will kind of depend on how fast she is in battle, so if you notice that she launches rapid attacks, then this trait will work perfectly for her. But if she is extremely slow in battle, we may have to reconsider this option. A couple of other traits I stumbled upon is Dravapala's Fighting Will and Wurgelak's Dark Fury. I don't know for sure if they will be beneficial to our guardian, but they look a little bit interesting. A level 22 fighting will trait increases the champion's strength by 20% for 10 seconds right at the start of the battle. This can be beneficial to us if our battles usually do not last for too long, but it has a time limit which makes it look less worth it. The level 22 Dark Fury trait increases our Guardian's strength by 20% for 5 seconds after we launch the active skill. So we have an instant strength buff every time we use our Guardian's active skill. Dark Fury may be worth it if our Guardian launches her active skill very often. Anyways, these are just some additional options we may look into and think about if we are not satisfied with either of our traits. We may also select them for our third trait slot if we want to, but we may want something more defensive based instead, and thus I suggest we try out Honorable to keep her alive in battle. Honorable will at level 22 increase our total damage reduction by 25%. This is a great layer of protection we tend to use on most champions in Bloodline. It is currently quite common, but that doesn't mean we cannot experiment and try out other things. Everything I have said about traits so far are just my own personal opinions, and you may choose other traits if you want to. There could be other combinations of traits that are more compatible with your overall team composition. Anyways, I think we have covered most of the topic. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Feel free to ask questions or share your thoughts and ideas with us in the comments section below. And remember to subscribe to the channel if you would like to take part in our giveaways, or if you would like to keep up with our future contents. We highly appreciate your support and contribution. Have an amazing day, and we will see you in the next one. Take care, stay foxy, adios, bye.